Hey everyone, welcome back to another video on the channel. So this video is based upon front-end mock interview questions where we will solve few JavaScript related questions, few front-end mini challenges, as well as sometimes machine coding questions as well in React.js. So a single particular video is gonna be a combination of all of these three things that I just said. That is, we're gonna initially solve few JavaScript questions, then later move on to the front-end mini challenges, or sometimes we'll even solve machine coding questions as well in React.js. If you find this interesting, please do hit the like button and do subscribe for more such content. So let's get started. So I'll be explaining the solution detailedly for each question that we go through, and after the solution we'll also be doing a dry run for that particular solution, that is whatever we have written, such that the thought process is gonna improve and we will understand how exactly our code is gonna run for each test case that is being provided to us. And after that, after solving the JavaScript questions, we're going to move to the front-end mini challenges, or it might be a machine coding questions as well. So initially we're going to solve some easy level questions, and as and when the videos come up, we're going to look into the medium and then the hard level questions. So let's get started. So as I said initially, let's head over to the JavaScript questions. So I'm just going to paste in my first question over here, that is inside of my txt file. So this is going to be the question. Okay, so I'm just gonna enlarge it. So the question goes like this, that is, we need to write a function flatten that takes a nested array as input and it returns a new array with all the nested elements extracted and combined into a single one-dimensional array. So the function should handle deeply nested arrays and recursively flatten all levels into a single array. So this is your problem statement. So this is basically a famous question that is asked in most of your interviews, that is to flatten your particular array, and the array given to you might be nested to any depth possible, right? So let's go to the test cases. So this is your first test case, that is flatten. This is the function name flatten, and this is the array they've given. So as you can see in the first test case, there is nothing to flatten because it is already flattened. So we just need to return the array as is. So the answer is going to be array of 1, 2, 3. So now let's move on to the next test case, that is going to be this one, that is flatten of 1, 2, 3. Again, as you can see over here, this is nested. So we need to return again 1, 2, 3 in a single dimensional level, that is in a one dimensional array. So now let's move on to the next test case, that is this one. Again over here, as you can see, we have a nested array present. Again, we need to bring that down to a single level. So it's again going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's going to be yours. Output. So based on how many ever nested arrays we are given, we just need to return all of the numbers in a one dimensional array, just like this. Okay, that's your problem statement. So let's actually understand what should be your initial approach, and let's understand the goal. So the goal is to take a nested array that's given and we need to produce a single level array, right? So let's head over to Google Docs and then let's understand the initial approach of solving this problem. So I've just opened up a empty Google Doc over here. I'm just going to say flatten array, and I'm just going to take in my initial example, let's say this one. So as you can see, this particular given array is a nested array, since the first element is a number and this element is an array in itself. So we need to produce the output, that is 1, 2, 3 from this particular given test case, right? So let's understand our initial approach. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to make use of a loop to iterate through the array, and we're going to check each element. So if it is a number, then we're going to add it to the result. If it is not a number, that is if it is an array, then we're going to do something with that particular array, right? So if you see over here, our first element is 1, that is while we loop through our array. So since this is a number, we're going to say add it to your result. Okay, the next element after 1 is going to be 2, 3. This is not a number, this is an array. So here we're going to do some implementation on this particular thing, right? I'm going to say some implementation on this array. So this is just a test example, and arrays can be deeply nested as well. So by making use of a single for loop, we might not know the actual depth of the array. So we're going to make use of something known as recursion to solve this problem, so that we could break down the complex array into simpler parts and then we could get our result in a one-dimensional array, right? So for that, let's understand our recursive approach. So here again it's going to be simple. We are again going to make use of a for loop itself. We're going to iterate through the array, and the way we're going to implement is we're going to check if at all, if it is a number, then we're just going to say add it to the result. If it is an array, that's our second case. So in this case, what we're going to do, we're going to call the function recursively on that particular array, and we're going to merge the result. Okay, so let's say at this point of time result is going to be 1, and whatever result we get over here, we're going to merge that, and then we're going to return the total result at the end of the function. So let's just write a basic kind of code over here. I'm going to say function flatten. It's going to take in your array as input over here. Here inside the function, I'm going to initialize my result. That is going to be initially an empty array. We're going to run over a for loop. I'm going to say for loop, and the condition is going to be this, that is I'm going to make use of my type of operator. That is, it would basically give you the type of variable you're trying to implement over here. I'm going to say type of, here let's say array of I, because inside the loop that's how we access this. I'm going to say if my type of array is going to be equals to a number. If this is true, then we're just going to say add this particular array of I to the result. If at all it is not true, that means if at all it is an array, then we're going to again recursively call the function, that is flatten of array of I. So again, this particular function is called with that particular array of I. So let's say in this case, this would get added to the result. Then 2, 3 is not a number, so it is an array. So since if it is an array, we're going to call the function again. So here we're going to pass in flatten of 2, 3. So again, we're going to run the for loop, and result is going to be empty. It is not going to contain 1 because we have initialized result as empty. And for loop you're going to run for 2, 3 this time. And since both 2 and 3 are numbers, we're going to automatically add it to the result. And this function would give you result, that is 2, 3. And this particular value gave you a result, that is 1. So at the final part, we're going to merge both the results, that is 1, 2, 3, and then we're going to return it to the function. Return it at the end of the function. So at the end, we would have remaining 1, 2, 3 over here. So this would be returned. So hope you understood the first example. So let's actually write down this code in VS Code, and then let's understand with the help of another example, that is by doing actually a dry run. That is how exactly each loop works. Okay. So you can go through this one more time. And let's come back to our code. And here, let's create a file. I'm just going to say flatten.js. And here, just according to whatever we discussed, I'm just going to write down my function. So I'm going to say function flatten of, let's say, array over here. And here initially I'm going to initialize my result, that is going to be returned, and by default it's going to be empty. Okay, so here I'm going to run over my for loop. I'm going to say for let I equals to 0, I is less than your array dot length, and then I plus plus. Okay, here I'm going to write my if condition, that is if my type of array of I, that is for each element in the array that is coming from over here, if this is going to be equals to a number, then according to our condition we need to add it to the result array. So I'm just going to say result dot apply the push method, and I'm going to say array of I. Else if it is not a number, I'm just going to call my flatten array. So here I'm going to say result is going to be equals to result dot apply the concat method and pass in your flatten of array of I. So here we are directly merging as well. If you do not merge, you would just get the result for that particular call. That's it. So let's try to save once. And finally at the end of the function, that is after your for loop, I'm just going to say return your result. So let's try to initialize this function, that is let's try to call it. So here I'm going to say console.log for now, console.log initialize your flatten function. This in turn is going to take in your array. For now, I'm just going to go to my questions.txt, take in the second example that's given, and I'm just going to paste the array over here. So this is the array that is passed, and let's try to run the file, save the file initially. So I'm just going to say node flatten.js and then enter. So there you go. Just like that, we are able to see the output that is in a one dimensional array, that is 1, 2, 3, and that is the required output for this particular test case. So now let's actually do a complete dry run for this particular function with a new different example. So this was a simple example that is 1, 2, 3, which is nested. So let's head back to the docs over here, and let's say I'm going to take in a new example. I'm going to say dry run over here. So here this is going to be your input, that is 1, 2, 3, 4, and we're going to close each of the methods. Okay, so yeah, this is your nested array. We need to provide this as the output, that is 1, 2, 3, and then 4. So here let's understand how exactly the process goes through. So I'm going to say initially result is going to be equals to empty. That's our result, and we're going to loop through the array, that is this array, right? So initially we're going to get element 1. So I'm going to say element 1. This is basically your number. So since this is a number, add it to your result. So I'm going to say add to result. So at this point of time, our result is going to be 1. That's correct. Okay, let's come back. Next we have is our element 2. So I'm going to say element 2. So element 2 is going to be your entire array, that is this particular thing is going to be element 2. This is going to be element 1. So let's understand element 2. That is 2 and then 3, 4. As you can see, this is a array. So since this is an array, we are going to call the flatten function again. I'm going to say call flatten of this particular array, just like this. So let's understand how that call goes. Again over here, I'm going to say result is going to be empty. So this is basically for your flatten call of this particular array, right? So by default, again result is going to be empty. Again we're going to loop through the array. Here first element is going to be 2. As you can see, as we loop through, element 2 is the first element. This is a number, as you can see. So we're going to say add it to the result. So add to result, and here I'm going to say result is going to contain, as far as now, is going to contain 2. Okay, so now yeah, that part is done. Next we're going to say element 2. As you can see, in this particular array, this is element 1, that is 2. This is your element 2, that is array of 3, 4. So here I'm going to say element 2 is going to be, that is the second part is going to be 2, not 2, 4, 3, 4. So this is not a number, this is an array. So since this is an array, again call the flatten function. I'm going to say call flatten of, it's going to be 3, 4. So let's understand this over here. I'm just going to press on enter. Here I'm going to say flatten of 3, 4. Okay, this should be in the form of an array. Okay, so again over here, the result is going to start from an empty array. So initialize result equals empty array. Okay, then we're going to loop through the array. So we're going to say element 3. That's the first element we encounter while looping through. This is a number, add to the result. So at this point of time, result is empty. We're going to say result is going to become 3. So the second one, I'm going to say element 4. So this is also a number. What we're going to say, add to result again. So result at this point of time becomes 3, 4. So since this particular execution is completed, we do have a return result in this flatten function as well. So we're going to say return 3, 4 back to the previous call from where this came, right? Here I'm going to say return 3, 4 to your previous call, right? So previous call is the right above, that is this one, right? So once it goes back to this call over here, as you can see, result is only 2. So here we're going to say result is going to be equals to 2. Okay, and here since we have the line that is result.concat of your flatten, so we're going to say 2.concat of this result, that is flatten of 3 comma 4. So since this returned 3 comma 4, so the way it's going to work like is it's going to say 2.concat of 3 comma 4. So this essentially becomes 2, 3 and then 4. Okay, that's it. So at this point of time in our second call, result value is 2, 3, 4, that is after concatenating. So that's the reason I'm writing it like this. Okay, and even the second function we do have a return result. So this result is again being returned to your previous call from where it came. So this came from this particular call, right? So in this case, if you would remember, as you can see, result is still 1. So here I'm going to say result is still 1. And we also have that line which says result is going to be equals to result dot concat of your flatten of array of I. Okay. So here I'm going to say 1 is already present. Apply the concat of your particular call. So the call is basically this one. This would return us some array. So this is basically the second call. So second call returned what? It returned this one, right? That is 2, 3, 4. So here we're going to say 1.concat of 2, 3 and then 4. So that's it. So this would basically give us 1, 2, 3 and 4. So at this point of time, all the elements are done and all the recursive calls have been implemented and everything has been returned down to the first call. So at this point of time, result is going to be equals to 1, 2, 3, 4 and we're just going to say return that particular result. So as you can see, we got 1, 2, 3 in this particular case. Let's try that out with this example. So I'm just going to copy that down and let's paste it over here. That is over here. Save. Let's run it again. So there you go. We are getting the correct result, that is 1, 2, 3 and 4. So yes, this question is complete and this can be solved using other methods as well. That is not only recursion. You can also try to solve using array.isArray as well. And based on that condition, you can write some other implementations as well. So yes, that's it about this particular question. Let's move on to the next one. So I'm just going to paste in the question over here. It's again a popular question and it is kind of simple to do if you know the methods. So the question goes like this, that is given two strings, return if they are anagrams of one another. So let's understand what exactly needs to be done. So basically these are your given test cases. That is our anagrams is your function name and we are given two strings, that is listen and then silent, and we need to return if they are anagrams of one another. Let's understand what exactly is an anagram. So basically an anagram is a word or a phrase that is formed by rearranging the letters of another word or a phrase. So for example, let's understand listen and then silent are anagrams because they contain the same letters in different orders. So you can actually check LISTEN. Even the same characters are present over here itself, but just that the word is different. So let's go through the second example, that is dormitory and then dirty room. As you can see, all of these characters are also present over here as well, and we can actually ignore your spaces and the capitalization as well. So let's understand the third example, that is hello and then world. So as you can see, these two are not anagrams of each other because they do not contain the same characters in one another. This contains hello and here it contains world. There is no H and even there is no W in the first word. So we can directly return false. Okay, so we just need to return true or false based on the condition that we are going through. And this one is going to be AA, BB, CC. This contains CC, BB, AA. So since both of them contain the same number of characters, we're going to return true in this case. So this is your test cases and we need to return either true or false depending upon whether they are anagrams or not. So let's understand this, how exactly we can solve it. Let's again head back to our doc over here. So here I'm going to say anagram. So our anagram of your listen as well as silent. So this should return us true. All right. So here the main observation is two strings are anagrams of each other if at all they have the same length. So that's the first condition you're going to check for. If at all these two strings do not have the same length, directly return false. You don't need to process the further conditions that we're going to work on. And the next condition is they contain the same characters with the same frequency. So first one is they have the same length, and second one is they contain same characters with the same frequencies. So if you are familiar with your string methods, you can easily solve this question. So let's understand how we're gonna exactly solve this. So we're gonna first of all convert both of the strings to lowercase. So here I'm gonna say convert both strings to lowercase. And furthermore, we're going to check the condition, that is if at all they do not have the same length, then directly return false. Okay. After that, we're going to apply our string methods, that is we're going to make use of the split method basically. So you can actually explore how exactly the split method works, and we're going to apply directly the sort method as well. And furthermore, we're going to apply the join method. Okay. So with the help of these three string methods, we're going to implement this particular function, that is our anagrams. So let's come back over here, and I'm going to say new file anagrams.js. I'm going to say function is anagram of your first and then the second. Here I'm going to say var string1 is going to be equals to your first dot to lowercase. So initially we are trying to convert it into lowercase over here. And secondly, I'm going to say var string2 is going to be equals to your second dot to lowercase. And I'm going to check the condition that if my string1 dot length is not equals to string2 dot length, or you can directly access the first also, even that is fine. If my first dot length is not equals to second dot length, then directly return false. Next, we are just going to say string1 is going to be equals to, I'm going to say string1 dot apply the split method, just pass in an empty code. So this would basically split your string, and it's going to be in the form of an array. Okay. So apart from this, I'm going to say sort, and I'm going to say join with again just empty string over here. Same thing I'm going to do that for the next string as well. I'm going to say string2 is going to be equals to string2 dot apply split dot apply the sort, and then add your join method over here. So let's say we have the given string, that is listen. Okay. So let's say listen is given to us. So let's consider this as string1. So here what happens is we're going to say string1 dot split. So in this case, we're going to say once it splits, it gets into an array. So I'm going to say L, and then it's going to be I, it's going to be S, then it's going to become T, then it's going to become E, and finally it's going to become N. So it's going to split based on this particular values. Okay. Once you apply sort to this particular array, this would sort alphabetically. That is whatever comes first in the alphabet, that is going to come up. Okay. And again, you're going to say dot join of the empty string. So this would again give you back to the word. Okay. That is whatever is present after sorting it. So the same thing we are applying it to the string2 as well. So once after finally implementing these two conditions, that is these two statements, I'm just going to say return string1 equals to string2, because after applying the sort itself and after applying the join, if at all they are anagrams of one another, that means if at all they do contain the same characters in both of the strings, they should have the equal value, right? So let's say you sort this one. So initially it's going to be, I guess, E comes first, then I, then L, then probably N, then S and T. So it's going to come like that. Same thing goes for the second word, that is silent. So you should be able to get equal values over here. And if we get equal values, then that means they are anagrams of one another. So let's try to save the file. So let's give this a try. I'm just going to run the file, that is node anagrams.js. Okay, nothing happened because I didn't call the function. So let's try to give a console.log. I'm going to say console.log of your is anagram, and this in turn is going to take in two strings, that is, let's say, listen and then silent. So pass it over here, save the file. Now let's give this a try. So there you go. As you can see, we're able to see true in the console. So now let's understand the dry run of how exactly this works in the backend part. So let's head back to our doc over here. So let's say we are given the same strings, that is listen and then silent. So let's first of all check the length. So string 1 length is going to be equals to 6, and string 2 length is also going to be equals to 6. So the if condition automatically fails, so we actually proceed with the function. So here we're going to sort both the strings, that is after applying the split. Okay, so essentially, as I told, it's going to be just this, that is your this particular array. That is once you sort. Okay, let's write it down. Okay, so your listen is going to get converted to something like this, and once you sort it, it's going to become like this, that is E I, okay, something like this. And once you apply the join method, it's going to be equals to E I L and then NST. So the same thing is going to happen for the second string as well, that is your silent. And again, once you sort, it's going to come like this, and once you apply the join, we're going to get the EIL NST as well, that is EIL NST itself. And we're going to check the condition, that is if EIL NST is going to be equals to EIL NST. So this is basically true, so we're going to return true. So that's how your function is going to work. Let's check this out with some other example. Let's say this one. This also should return true for us. Let's paste it over here, save and then run it. So there you go, it is returning true. Let's check for a false condition, that is this one, hello and then world. This one should return as false. Save and then enter. So there you go, it is returning as false. That means these two are not anagrams of one another, which is true. So yes, we have completed this particular question. So now let's move on to the next part, that is a basic kind of front-end mini challenge that we're going to solve. And hope you understood both of the questions, that is how to flatten a given array that is nested, and how to find out if two strings which are given are anagrams of one another or not. So yeah, this part is done. Let's move on to the next part, that is where we solve a basic kind of front-end mini challenge using React.js. So for the next part of the question, we will be solving it in React, as I previously explained. So let's get started. So here we are basically going to solve a simple kind of mini challenge. So we're going to start off from a easy level question. So here we're going to basically build a number guessing game. So I'll just be showing a screenshot, that is what exactly needs to be built, and based on the screenshot, automatically you'll be able to understand what needs to be implemented. So this is your screenshot. So basically, once the app loads, a secret number or a special number would be generated, and we would have a text input field over here for the user to enter a random number and press on the submit button. So based on whatever number each time they enter, that is the user, and presses on the submit button, we need to keep a track of all of the guesses starting from the first guess. And based on their guesses, we need to provide a statement over here, that is try a lower number or try a higher number based on the number we have generated, that is the special number. So once if they have guessed the number correctly, we need to show a message saying that you have guessed the number correctly, and then we need to disable the submit button, and then we need to enable your start game button so that the user can start the game again. By default, once the app loads, the start game would be disabled because the number is already generated, that is your special number, and your submit button is enabled for the user to make the guesses. So based on this, we're going to start implementing our application. So you can also start coding alongside, and you can start writing the code for this as well. So let's get started. So initially I'm going to look into basically the design part. So let's start with the h2 tag over here. I've just opened up a basic React project, so you can create your own React project and then you can start coding. So over here we're going to say enter a number from 0 to 100. Save the file. Let's check out the output. Yeah, so as you can see, enter a number from 0 to 100. We are able to see that onto the screen. So below that I'm going to have my input. So this in turn is going to have a type. Type is going to be of number. So here I'm going to say number. Apart from that, I'm going to say placeholder. So placeholder is going to be equals to enter a number. Apart from this, I'm going to say min value. It should be 0. It cannot go below 0. And let's initialize the state to hold the number. That is basically whatever the user is entering inside of the input field. So at the top over here, I'm going to say const number comma set number is going to be equals to use state. This initially is going to be let's say an empty string, and make sure to import use state from React. So I'm going to say import use state from React. Alright, so now let's come back to the input and let's provide in the value. Okay, so here I'm going to say value is going to be your number itself, and we have the onChange method to track whatever the user is typing, and then we need to update it each time. So I'm going to say onChange. This in turn is going to say handle change. So let's define the handle change at the top over here. I'm going to say const handle change is going to be equals to normal arrow function. This in turn is going to take in your event, and I'm going to say set your number to be of your e.target.value. This would give you the entire value. Okay, so we do have the value being stored, that is whatever the user is typing, and we do have the onChange also set up for the input. So yes, below this, let's save the file initially. So as you can see, we're able to see that being shown on the screen, and we can increase it and we can decrease it, but we can only go till 0. Even if I press on the down button, it would not go below that because we have provided the min of 0 over here. For the input, I'm just going to provide some internal styling for now, just to space it out. I'm going to say internal styling padding of 10 and then save. So below the input, I'm going to have my div being initialized. So this div in turn is going to have a button, that is your submit button, to enter the number. So here I'm going to say submit. So once the user presses on a number or enters a number, they can submit over here. So for the div, I'm again going to give some margin top just to space it out a bit. So here I'm going to say margin top of 20. Let's try to save the file. So there you go, we do have that submit button being shown onto the screen. And let's also provide some margin top to this of 15. Save. Yeah, so it's looking fine. So let's continue with the next part. So after your div, we're gonna have the next div being initialized. So here basically we're going to show the result that is based on whatever the user has guessed. Okay, so now apart from that, yeah, this is the initial design. So once when we enter a number, then we're going to show the remaining results, right? So first let's look into generating a random number. So for that, I'm going to initialize my use effect. So on the initial render of the app, this is going to run. So I'm just going to pass in an empty dependency array, so it runs on the initial render, and here I'm going to say generate number. So let's define the function that is generate number over here. I'm going to say const generate number. So to do that, I'm going to say const num is going to be equals to, we're going to say math.floor, and here I'm going to make use of the math.random method. So math.random, and this in turn is going to say multiply it with 100 and then plus 1. So this would basically generate your special number. Let's initialize the state to hold your special number. So I'm going to say const special number, comma set special number is going to be equals to use state. Initially it's going to be null, and once we have generated it, I'm just going to say set your special number to be of your number. And let's also initialize the state for the disabling of your submit button. We need to check that as well, right? So I'm going to say const is submit disabled, comma set is submit disabled is going to be equals to use state, and by default it would be set to be false. And even over here also we're going to set it to be false itself. I'm going to say set is submit disabled to be of false. And now let's say if the user has guessed the number correctly, then that means this should be disabled, that is submit should be disabled, and start game should be enabled. So once we press on start game, again we're going to call the same function, that is generate number. So again, once you press on a start game, this particular previous input that is present should be cleared off, right? So for that reason I'm going to say set your number to be also of an empty string to start off the game, and then again the text input would be empty for the user to enter the next number. So let's try to save the file, and I'm going to initialize my result. I'm going to say const result, comma set result is going to be equals to use state, and initially it would be an empty string. So this result is basically for this piece of text, that is try a lower number, try a higher number, and then congrats, you have guessed the number. So based on that we're going to show this particular variable, that is result. Now let's also initialize our array to hold the guesses that is done by the user. I'm going to say const guesses, comma set guesses is going to be equals to use state, and here it's initially going to be equals to an empty array. So let's try to save the file. So now let's come back to the submit button, and then let's actually give some options to this. So I'm going to say on click is going to say handle submit. So on click equals to handle submit. Let's first of all initialize this, and this is going to be disabled if is submit disabled is true. So is submit disabled is true. So is submit disabled is going to be true when? It's going to be true when the game is complete, that is once the user has guessed the correct number, because that time submit is going to be disabled and then start game is going to be enabled, right? So that's the reason this is going to be disabled when is submit disabled is going to be true. So apart from that, let's define the function that is handle submit. So I'm just going to go at the top, and I'm going to say const handle submit equals to a normal function, and let's write the code for this. So here let's understand what exactly needs to be done. So let's say once when the user enters any kind of number into the input and presses on the submit button, first thing we need to do is that we need to add that particular number into the guesses part. And after that, first of all, we're going to check if at all that particular number, whatever the user has entered, is equals to your special number. If that is true, we're going to automatically set the result stating that congrats, you guessed it right. And after that, we're going to start the new game. Okay. Else, if your number is greater than your special number, then in that case, we're going to say try a lower number. And else in the other condition, we're going to say if your guessed number is less than the special number, then of course it is a higher number. we're going to set the result to be try a higher number, right? So let's implement that. So here I'm going to say initially set guesses. So take in whatever is there initially in the guesses and then add your new guess that is going to be number at that particular point of time. So here I'm going to write my first condition, that is if my number that is entered by the user is equals to my special number, this means they have guessed the number correctly. I'm going to say set result to be of your this string which says congrats, you guessed it right. So here is the time when we are going to set is submit disabled to be false, not false, true, because the game is complete. So I'm going to say set is submit disabled to be true. And apart from this, we also might require another state, that is your start game and then set start game. So I'm going to say const start game comma set start game is going to be equals to use state, and here we're going to set it to be false initially. And once the condition is true, that is if your number is going to be equals to special number, we're going to say set start game is going to become true over here. And even set is disabled, that is set is submit disabled is set to be true. And here we're going to say set your guesses to become empty because we have already completed the game, right? So that's your first condition. Let's try the next condition, that is if your number that is guessed by the user is greater than your special number, then of course the special number is lesser. So here we're going to say set result to be of try a lower number. Here the final condition, that is if your number is less than your special number, then it's going to be the opposite. So I'm going to say set result of try a higher number. Let's format and then let's try to save. So let's come down over here and let's continue designing. So just below your div, I'm going to have one more div, that is for your start game button. So here I'm going to say initialize a button again. This is going to say start game, and let's pass on some style to the div, that is basically some margin top of 20. So save. So as you can see, we have two buttons being shown. So on the initial render, start game should be disabled because already the number would have been generated, right? So here let's provide some options to the button, that is disabled is going to be not of start game. So that's the reason we initialize the state for this. So not of start game. And we're going to say on click is simple, just go ahead and then call the function, that is generate number. That is a function that we just initialized, that is this one. Okay, let's scroll down and then the next step is let's format once. Let's try to render your result over here in another div. Let's say over here I'm going to say initialize a p tag and show your result, and next below this I'm going to have my div being initialized where we're going to show all of the guesses of the user. I'm going to say guesses.length is greater than 0. That means if we do have any guesses, then in that case initialize this particular p tag. I'm going to say your guesses, and here we're just going to map over your guesses array and then show the guesses. So here I'm going to say guesses.map. So for every item and then the index, here we're going to initialize just a p tag for now and then show that particular item. And here I'm just going to say key is going to be equals to index. So let's format once and then let's try to save the file. So yes, this is your complete implementation for the number guessing. Let's give this a try. So as you can see, by default the start game is disabled because the game has already been started, that is the number has been generated. You can actually give it a try over here, that is by trying to console.log your special number. I'm going to say console.log number and then your special number. Save. Let's try to log this, inspect, console. So there you go. Let's try to reload once. As you can see, number is 37. Initially number was null. Once I reloaded the app, number is 37 over here. Okay, so let's give this a try. Let's once more check if at all we have implemented everything correctly. So we do have input for entering the number, and we are accessing the value as well as on change, and in the handle change we are storing whatever the user is typing with the help of e.target.value, and we have the result, the guesses, and the start game being initialized, and even these two states, that is for the special number and your e-submit disabled to check that particular state. And once you press on submit after entering a number, we have a function being initialized, that is handle submit, that is going to go over here. Initially we're going to set the guesses, and we're going to check the number, that if at all your number is going to be equals to special number, then we're going to set result, congrats, you guessed it right. Then at this point of time the game is complete, so we're going to say is submit disabled to be true. We're going to disable your submit button, and we're going to say set start game to be of true, and we're going to say set guesses to be of your empty array again. And if at all your number is greater than special number, then we're going to say set result of try a lower number, and if at all your number is less than a special number, we're going to say set result of try a higher number. So that's what we're gonna implement. So hopefully this should work out. Let's give this a try. And as you can see, our number is 37. Let's say I'm gonna enter 30 over here, and I'm gonna press on submit. So there you go. It says try a higher number, and this is your guesses which says 30. Let's say I'm gonna enter 35 now. I'm gonna press on submit. So there you go. Still it says try a higher number because 37 is a special number and it is greater than 35. So the next one I'm going to guess is 37, and I'm going to press on submit. So there you go. Automatically it said congrats, you guessed it right. And submit got disabled because we had set it to be disabled once the game completes. And as you can see, start game is enabled automatically because now the user can start a new game. So once you press on your start game, it should go to directly this particular function, generate number. Here a special number is again generated, and we're going to say set is submit disabled to be false, and we're going to say set number to be of an empty string again, because as you can see over here we do have some number being shown, so we're going to clear off that particular input field, right? So yes, apart from that, we're also going to say set your game, set start game to be of false, that is over here. So the start game is going to become disabled once you press on this, right? So let's try that out. I'm going to press on submit now. Okay, I think the input got cleared because we had made a change and then we had saved the file. So let's give this one more try. Reload, and then let's see the number. So the number is 80. Let's say I'm going to enter 60. Submit. I'm going to enter 70. Submit. Let's enter 75. Again, it should say try a higher number. As you can see, let's enter 80 now, and then try to press on submit. So there you go. Congrats, you guessed it right. So again, it works absolutely fine. That is, submit is disabled because the game is complete, and start game is enabled. So now if I press on start game, again a new number should be generated, and we should again be able to implement it as the previous way. Let's press on start game. So there you go. Automatically once I press on start game, a new number was generated in the console, that is 98. And again our submit button is enabled, right? Because the game is already started. I think we also need to clear off this particular one, that is once when you press on start game, that is congrats, you guessed it right. So let's give that a try. So once you press on this particular one, I'm going to say set result to be of empty as well. Save. Let's give this a try. I'm going to reload once. Number is 35. I'm going to say 35 directly. Submit. Congrats, you guessed it right. Now if I press on start game, everything works fine except that we need to clear this input field as well. Not the input field, clear this particular string as well. Let's press on start game. So there you go. Now that's working fine. Number is 52. I'm going to press on 52 over here and then submit. So yes, as you can see, it's working absolutely fine. So yes, we have completed designing the entire question that is based on the screenshot that was given to us. Yes, this was a pretty simple question, and as and when we move with the further videos, we're going to solve some medium level questions as well as the hard level questions. So hope you were able to do this on your own. So if you find this interesting, please hit the like button. And yes, I think that's it about this video. So we initially learned about 2 questions in JavaScript, that is at the starting point, and after that was done, we implemented this kind of mini challenge which is actually pretty basic itself. So yes, that's it about this entire video. So let's see you in the next video, and then thank you for watching.